Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel, BattleCat here, and we're going to review a juicy new tidbits on the mid-season patch for Splatoon 3, the 2.1.0 update. And not even waste any time, let's just jump directly in and see what we got. So let's see, what changes to the meta in terms of weapon? Alright, looks like we got a buff to the arrow sprays and how they ink terrain by about 10%, and reduce blur when firing. Alright, so the drop that land on the ground, that's actually not bad of a buff when it comes to the jet squelcher. They do the same thing in Nova, the size of terrain. And yep, alright. So there's painting buffs. I'm not sure I did buffs to the arrow spray. I don't think the arrow spray needs terrain painting buffs from the falling droplets. And I don't know about that one. That's a little weird, but I can get behind the Sculpture and Nova buffs with painting. I can get behind that, especially the Nova, because the Nova, as it stands right now, it doesn't really have a place in the game. It tries to be a jack of all trades, but it truly is a master of none. So I'm okay with this, especially 19%. That's a pretty hefty buff. I'm actually very curious to see how far that brings the Nova, so that might be something I actually try. But let's see, Roller. Ooh, you can now cause 50 or 100 damage from farther away than before. Okay. Okay, that's an interesting buff for the Dino. And the Big Swig too. Minimum damage from horizontal 30 to 35. Okay, that's not that big, but it's a buff nonetheless. Reduced ink consumption by 17% the Bamboozler. I think that's what, gonna allow it to fire off 14, 15, something like that. And a buff for the Nautilus by 15% in firing duration? Wow, that's interesting. I didn't think the Nautilus really needed to be touched anywhere. I mean, it stands fine where it is right now. And, of course, another nerf to the machine. Ooh, the pen. Angle shooter. Damage from 30 to 35. Okay, I did think the angle shooter needed a damage buff, so that's actually pretty good. And radius of ink coverage. Ooh, so we get a buff to how actually big it is. And how much ink it does. Alright, this is great. This is actually a great change. I really do think the angle shooter needs to be a lot more competitive as a sub. It's a very interesting sub, like it's a very interesting idea, but it needs more to be able to stand out and be able to compete. And I think this is going on the right path of that. But let's see what happens to the specials. Tactical is quick respawn and special save will no longer be negated. Ooh, alright. Alright, and okay, this is great. This is a great buff to the tactical because as it stands, wasn't really used that much by the community. It wasn't really meta. And this is good. This will actually probably help see more coolers get placed on. This is actually very good to see. I can get behind this change 100%. Just the amount of time for the invulnerability window, which occurs after exploding until you are able to move. So, NLAG buff, which is good because when you're on like a large enough opening, or like if you're on a big open map like a Hagglefish or even a Mincemeat, and you use that thing out in the open, man, punishing you is the easiest thing in the world. I love reef slider users that do that because punishing you and getting an easy splat is just fantastic. So I'm actually happy they do this because I think it is way too easy to punish reef sliders with the NLAG. I have no idea what it was before. It doesn't have a before and after, but that's a good thing. And let's see, Tri-Strike. Increase the area by 10%. Increase the damage by 50%. Increase the damage by 50%. Damn. Holy crap. This is a huge buff to the Tri-Strike. Holy shizzle bucket. And of course the crab. Let's see what happened to the crab. Shorten duration of the crab tank by a second. And increase the extension range. Alright. Nothing major there. For all intents and purposes, they did absolutely nothing to the crab. They did absolutely nothing. And they didn't do what is contributing to part of the crab problem, which is the splash. The splash didn't get hit at all. Has the splash even been touched, period, in 3? Yeah, I don't think it has. That's the main thing everyone's complaining about is the splash. Not so much the crab. I mean, the crab is really good, but the real main problem right now is the splash. It's really high meta right now. Like, all you see is it's a splash everywhere, especially when you climb in the higher ranks. So, this isn't going to do anything, especially taking a second off. I mean, big whoop-de-doo. This isn't going to do absolutely anything to nullify crab usage. Unless, by super buffing the bejesus out of the Tri-Strike, they're trying to make this be the counter to the crab with this massive 50% damage buff. I guess is like one of the only things I can think of. I don't know about this. I think the main problem is the splash. It's not It's not the crap tank itself. I think the main issue is the splash right now for the meta. But let's see what they changed the points. Splatter shot, here shot replica. All right, so the splatter shot goes to 190. That's a buff. The 52 got a buff. Why? The 52 already gets killer whales often enough. Why did it need a 10-point buff to its special gauge? Even the 96, I don't really think needed a special buff at all. I mean, yeah, 10 points. We're not talking end of the world, but these are buffs that I don't think are warranted. The Pro got another one to 180. Not the Forge though. The Forge didn't get touched. Period, from what it looks like. But the Nova gets a buff. Man, what? They really seems like they're trying to make specials be a lot more centered in this game because these are all buffs to getting them sooner. Flat dualies even? All right, there you go. You're going to get more crab right there again. I mean, the dualies, even the regular dualies, they're not that bad. The junior, okay, the junior got nerfed, 180 to 190. Okay, I can agree with that because I've used the custom junior a lot. It's hella fun. I can see why they want to curb on that bit. But sloshing machine, another nerf. Even the Splatoon wiper, why? Why the Splatoon wiper getting a nerf? I don't know. I don't agree about these two. I mean, the machine gets hit twice again. Doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, yeah, everybody complained about the machine being meta in the first few weeks, but that didn't last long. We know what's really going on now. This continual hitting to the machine, especially this double dip between this and the ink consumption hit. I mean, this tells me Nintendo isn't afraid to overextend with nerfs and buffs. So why they're being so timid in other areas, and yet they keep targeting the machine as if, I don't know, Nintendo walked in the room on the machine banging its mom from behind, and it has this vendetta against the machine. I don't get it. I don't get it. I half agree with these, and half don't, because I mean, there's really no reason to give the 52 a buff. It does not need to fire killer whales off more often than it already does. It has no issues getting killer whale, none at all. And let's see. Let's look at Ninja Squid, which has been hotly contested, and I can tell you right now, you guys are complaining about Ninja Squid for the wrong reasons. The reason why Ninja Squid is so meta right now is simply because the maps. The maps are awful, and Ninja Squid is like one of the only real counters to the map design right now. That's why it's in use so much. But let's see. Ink Splash will no longer be invisible for half of a second, so 500 milliseconds immediately after transforming into kid form. Using the gear ability swim speed at the same time will no longer result in the ability being cancelled. Translation error? That's not really... Is this a buff, actually, to Ninja Squid? Using the gear ability... So is this saying that... Because right now, the way it works is swim up speed while having Ninja Squid does not work as well as it normally would. So the speed up you get from swim up speed if you have Ninja Squid on isn't the same as if you didn't have it on. So does this mean that putting Ninja Squid and swim up speed now, you don't get the lesser effect of swim up speed? You would get the same as if... This is worded poorly. I think this is a buff. I think what this is saying is if you put swim speed up and you had Ninja Squid, you are going to get the full effect of the swim speed up you apply. You're not going to get a diminished effect anymore. I think that's what that means, but that's poorly worded. And this, I think, is fixing the problem that in close quarter fights, I mean, you can't just cheese a close quarter fight by going into ink right away and, you know, your opponent loses you. I think that's what that means. I'm okay with that. I'm actually okay with that. But this, if this is a buff, if I think I'm reading this right, because this is worded terribly, then there's actually a buff to Ninja Squid. It means you can actually use swim speed up a lot more normally, so... And, you know, just some bug fixes in here. Actually, you know what we're going to have to do? Is there anything when it comes to netcode? Let's just look for some buzzwords. Alright, so I looked at this a little bit. Just cut this short because I was just looking and fumbling around like an idiot, so I cut that out. But I looked in here. It doesn't seem to be anything in regards to matchmaking or netcode improvements, which is a super disappointment, but I can understand why they did that, and they didn't want to do that mid-season. I can understand that. Save that for a bigger patch when, you know, the next season comes. Make like a real big, huge patch for patch 3. I can understand that. So I'm a little disappointed because I think the matchmaking and netcode, man, they really, really need some massive help with the game's current state, but I can understand if they're choosing to save those for 3.0 in the next major one. But other than that, I mean, that looks to be it. Yeah, there's some bug fixes. There's some stuff with the Brella. So I know Brella users out there are going to be a little happier. I'd like to see some buffs to the actual weapon itself and not just bug fixes. I think it really needs it. But there you go. That's patch 2.1. I'll have it linked down below for those who want to go read it in its entirety on their own. The gist of it is, yeah, shooters are privileged. That's the gist of it. I can start to see why people say that, because that's what it looks like. There are some buffs and nerfs that are a little funky, but we'll see how the meta changes after this over the next week or so. How, you know, play starts to change in ranked, what the pros say and all that. We'll just have to wait and see, but I think it's still a little bit timid. We'll have to see if Nintendo keeps doing this drip philosophy with their updates or not. But that's it for this one. It was just a quick patch notes check, and I'll be streaming this weekend. And until then, have a good one, peeps.